In the grand halls of China's most powerful dynasty, a single woman's beauty ignited passion, reshaped politics, and nearly destroyed an empire. She was called Yang Guifei, a name whispered in poems etched in history, remembered as both the most desired woman in the Tang Dynasty and the tragic spark behind its fall. How did the emperor's forbidden love for his own daughter-in-law plunge the Golden Age into chaos? From luxury beyond imagination to betrayal, rebellion, and a death that shocked the world. This is the untold story of power, beauty, and destruction. The rise and fall of Yang Guifei, the woman who brought down an empire. You probably know the Tang Dynasty as an era of poetry, art, and prosperity. But behind the grand palaces and golden walls, there was a woman whose beauty didn't just capture hearts. It altered the fate of an entire empire. Her name, Yang Guifei, later known as Yang Guifei, the most desirable, most controversial, and most tragic consort in Chinese history. Yang Guifei was born in the year 719 into a respected but not overly influential family. Her father worked as a census official, but sadly, he passed away when she was still a child. From then on, Yang was raised by her uncle, growing up as the youngest of 4 sisters. But from a young age, Yang's beauty was the kind that made people stop and stare. Modern historians often describe her with 2 words, gorgeous and intelligent. And those words would come to define not just her life, but the legacy she left behind. In 736, at just 17 years old, Yang married Prince Lai Mao, the son of Emperor Xuanzong of the Tang Dynasty. It was a grand wedding fit for royalty. And from that moment, Yang officially became part of the imperial palace. But what seemed like a fairy tale was only the beginning of a story filled with power, scandal, and heartbreak. Imagine being Lai Mao, a prince watching your young wife praised, admired, eventually catching the eye of your own father, the emperor. That's exactly what happened. Yang Guifei's life changed forever when Emperor Xuanzong, still grieving the death of his favorite consort, noticed her at a palace banquet. At that moment, Yang was only 19 years old. Xuanzong, he was 53. Despite already having countless beautiful women at his command, the emperor was instantly captivated by Yang Guifei, his own daughter-in-law. But to avoid public scandal and maintain the dignity of the dynasty, Xuanzong came up with a clever, albeit questionable plan. He sent Yang to a Taoist monastery within the palace, granting her the title Taoist Nuna for nearly 7 long years. Yang lived in quiet seclusion, hidden away from the public eye, all while waiting for the emperor's final decision. And when the time came, everything changed in a heartbeat. In 745, Yang returned to the palace, not as a princess, but as the emperor's highest-ranking consort, Yang Guifei. Her elevation shook the entire court. Xuanzong was so infatuated with her that he even arranged a new marriage for his son Lai Mao to smooth over the scandal. The drama behind the palace curtains was straight out of a historical soap opera. But it's no surprise Yang Guifei caused such a stir. She wasn't just beautiful, she was legendary. In fact, she's remembered as one of the 4 great beauties of China. Ancient poets would say her beauty shamed the blooming flowers, as if even nature itself blushed when she walked by. They say Yang had flawless porcelain skin, naturally rosy cheeks, and long flowing black hair. A share figure tall, curvaceous, and the very ideal of Tang Dynasty beauty standards. When she walked, it was as if a goddess from folklore had descended upon the palace grounds. Her presence turned heads, captured hearts, and even left the mighty emperor powerless to her charm. But Yang Guifei wasn't just a pretty face. She was cultured, talented, and full of grace. Her dancing so mesmerizing, it left audiences spellbound, her singing sweet, clear, and utterly enchanting. She even mastered the pipa, a traditional stringed instrument beloved by the nobility. Whenever Emperor Xuanzong and Yang Guifei played music together, quarters described the atmosphere as magical. The emperor himself composed songs just for her, including the famous rainbow skirt and feathered dress performed by the imperial orchestra as Yang danced. Can you picture it? Her dazzling beauty, the elegant music, the whispered admiration. Together they were a royal couple unmatched in charm and influence, the ultimate power pair of their time. But as with any story of power and privilege, the luxury came with controversy. and Yang Gui's rise would soon ripple far beyond palace walls. With Yang Guifei firmly established as the emperor's favorite, her influence didn't just elevate her own status, it transformed her entire family. Almost overnight, the Yang clan rose from nobility to near royalty. Her three elder sisters were granted noble titles and luxurious lifestyles, while her cousin Yang Guifei climbed the ranks to become the Tang Dynasty's prime minister. Picture this: a single woman's beauty and charm, turning her family into the true power players behind the throne. Their faces appeared at royal ceremonies, their names whispered in the halls of power, their wealth and influence expanding like wildfire. From an ordinary background, they became the hidden rulers of the empire, an invisible hand pulling the strings behind Emperor Xuanzong. But while the grandeur of the court dazzled outsiders, cracks began to form beneath the surface. Many officials and military leaders grew uneasy. How could one family accumulate so much power? Was the empire still in the hands of the Tang Dynasty? Or had it become the playground of the Yang clan? The contrast was undeniable. The empire flourished with art, poetry, and culture, but political balance was slipping. Yang Guifei's personal life reflected this extravagance. She had an army of 700 weavers dedicated solely to crafting her lavish wardrobe. Yes, 700 people working daily just for her clothing. Nothing was too excessive. From glittering jewels to the finest delicacies, her every whim was fulfilled. Yang Guifei adored fresh Lushan fruit, so much so that Emperor Xuanzong issued special imperial orders to transport the delicate fruit from distant provinces, just to satisfy her cravings. Think about that for a moment. While soldiers guarded the borders and peasants struggled, imperial resources were redirected to deliver fruit at lightning speed, all for the emperor's beloved consort. If you thought that was excessive, listen to this. Even the palace's most powerful eunuch was assigned to hold the reins of her horse, ensuring her flowing gowns didn't get tangled as she rode. It sounds unbelievable, right? One woman capable of moving an entire empire to her desires, but with great privilege came public resentment. Whispers of nepotism echoed across the empire. People asked, how can one family be so rich, so powerful, all because of beauty? The rumors snowballed into accusations, officials abusing their power, weakening the state, creating instability from within. The court became divided, trust eroded, and hidden rivalries festered like wounds. Some historians argue this concentration of power within the Yang clan laid the groundwork for disaster. That disaster came sooner than expected. In 755, the empire's simmering tensions finally exploded. General An Lushan, once a favored military leader, and even treated like an adopted son by Emperor Xuanzong and Yang Guifei, turned traitor. His rebellion sent shockwaves through the empire. It was a betrayal no one saw coming. Just years earlier, An Lushan had been showered with honors, invited to imperial celebrations, and promoted to one of the highest military positions. But beneath the surface, resentment brewed. Many believe An Lushan grew fed up, watching the Yang family tighten their grip on power, using their influence to sideline others. His response? Full-scale rebellion. His forces launched devastating attacks, province after province collapsing under the assault. The mighty Tang Dynasty, once at the height of its golden age, began to crumble. Even the capital city Chang'an stood on the brink of falling into chaos. The once great Emperor Xuanzong, now aging and overwhelmed, struggled to hold his fractured empire together. Historians say his judgment faltered. Blinded by the advice of his cousin Yang Guifei, who prioritized the family's power over the stability of the state, the rebellion spiraled out of control. The imperial army fractured, the people starved, and trust in leadership eroded. Even the grandest palaces couldn't shield them from the storm. As the empire bled, so did the foundations of power that Yang Guifei and her family had built. But despite the rebellion, the imperial court's inner circle clung to their old ways. Life for Yang Guifei remained as luxurious as ever. While millions suffered from the ravages of war, she lived as though untouched. Like a queen in a fairy tale world, disconnected from reality, her personal entourage still operated like a small kingdom. Hundreds of servants tailored her gowns, prepared rare delicacies, and sourced exotic jewels from across the empire. Even imported grapes and foreign perfumes were part of her daily luxuries. Everywhere Yang Guifei went, the red carpet metaphorically followed. The empire bent to her every desire, even as it cracked under the weight of rebellion. And yet, amidst the grandeur, the resentment festered in the army and the streets, even within the palace walls. How long could such extravagance survive when the empire itself teetered on the edge of collapse? The answer came in the most tragic, heart-wrenching way imaginable. The year was 756. The rebellion of An Lushan had reached its terrifying peak. One by one, Tang Dynasty strongholds fell. In the imperial capital itself, Chang'an stood vulnerable, its proud walls trembling under the weight of betrayal and chaos. Emperor Xuanzong, once hailed as the ruler of a golden age, now found himself fleeing his own empire, accompanied by a desperate entourage of officials, guards, and his beloved Yang Guifei. Their destination, the distant region of Sichuan, a final refuge far from the bloodshed. But the road to escape was no victory march. The imperial convoy, exhausted and broken, came to a halt on the slopes of Maui, a bleak and rugged stretch of land. Hunger gnawed at their strength. Fatigue weighed on their bodies, and worst of all, fury simmered within the imperial army. The soldiers had reached their limit. Their loyalty had been stretched thin, their lives sacrificed for a regime they no longer believed in. And to them, the symbol of everything wrong with the empire, the corruption, the favoritism, the unbearable luxury, was Yang Guifei and her family. The accusations spread like wildfire. "It's the Yang clan's fault," they muttered. "They've drained the empire, weakened the army, and plunged us into this disaster." The soldiers' eyes burned with rage. Patience finally snapped. And then the unthinkable demand echoed through the air. "Sacrifice Yang Guifei. Only then will the army calm down." Imagine the heartbreak. Emperor Xuanzong, an aging ruler whose heart belonged entirely to this woman, now faced an impossible choice. His love, his muse, the woman who had inspired songs and poetry, now seen as the scapegoat for an empire's collapse. The emperor begged, pleaded, and wept. But the army refused to back down. Their threat was clear. Either Yang Guifei dies, or the rebellion consumes what little remained of the dynasty. And so on those barren Maui slopes, history reached its cruel climax. The most beautiful woman of the Tang Dynasty, whose face had once been described as making even flowers blush, met her tragic fate. There are different versions of her final moments. Some say she accepted her fate with grace. Her eyes filled with quiet sorrow as the emperor's eunuch carried out the grim task, strangling her with a silk cord. Others believe she took her own life, choosing to protect her beloved emperor from the wrath of the soldiers. Either way, her story ended on that desolate mountainside at only 37 years old. Her body, stripped of its royal dignity, was buried hastily, without honors, without ceremony, a far cry from the life of grandeur she once lived. The soldiers, momentarily appeased, pressed on, but the empire would never be the same. It's hard not to feel the bitter irony. The most envied woman in China, once cloaked in silks, jewels, and power discarded like a criminal, her beauty, her love reduced to a symbol of downfall. But her story didn't die there. In the years that followed, Yang Guifei's name transcended history. Love story with Emperor Xuanzong became immortalized by the great poet Baijiu Yi in his epic poem, The Song of Everlasting Sorrow. His words painted their love as deep, passionate, yet doomed a reflection of how beauty and desire can shape the destiny of nations. The poem mourns not only their personal tragedy, but the sorrow of an empire losing its way, a timeless reminder of how love and politics intertwine for better or worse. The legacy of Yang Guifei stretched beyond China. It's believed her story inspired the tale of Genji, Japan's classic literary masterpiece, blending her legend into the fabric of East Asian culture. Today, visitors to Shawnee Province can still find her bronze statue standing silently at her burial site, a tribute to a woman who embodied both the heights of beauty and the depths of tragedy. In modern films, dramas, and literature, her story lives on, retold with new faces. But the same haunting lesson: beauty can elevate, love can conquer, but both can also destroy. So, what do we truly learn from Yang Guifei's story? Perhaps it's that beauty and power are dangerous companions. They can lift someone to unimaginable heights, but just as easily spark jealousy, resentment, and even collapse an empire. Or perhaps it's a love story of two people bound by passion, yet torn apart by the harsh realities of politics and war. What's your take? Was Yang Guifei merely a victim of fate and politics? Or was she a symbol of how unchecked privilege can bring about downfall? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into history, love, and scandal, don't forget to hit that like button. Share this video with your friends so they too can uncover the forgotten tragedies behind the palace walls. Subscribe to our channel and ring the notification bell so you never miss the next untold story from history's shadows.
Thanks for watching.
I'll see you in the next video.